I'm going to talk Severance. Now, season 2 has just began, and I've kind of gotten into the show again. It has been years since the first season of this show. 3 years. That's too long. I'm sure it's been a year since I watched this show originally. Maybe I watched it 2 years ago. I actually don't remember. I remember having Apple TV at the time, and I just happened to watch it. I can't help but feel like if this show was on Netflix, more people would be talking about it, like they do the Squid Game or other shows on Netflix. The fact it's sort of, shelved on Apple TV, I might be the best word for it, is really a shame, because this is one of those shows that's essentially a mystery box type of show. Sort of like the show Lost, where essentially you have these characters, you put them in a scenario, but you don't really know, and you throw enough things at them to know that something mysterious is happening here that is beyond their control, and that eventually these characters are going to have to rise to the occasion and deal with it. But you can honestly, but with the case of Lost, a lot of times there's been a lot of debate on whether these people were just making it up all along, or they had a scenario and they were just throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what stuck. Severance doesn't feel like that type of show, but I could be wrong on this. If you're not familiar with Severance, I've talked about it before. I don't know if I did a 10-minute rant on it, but I did talk about that the show is worth watching simply because of the concept alone. Severance is about basically it takes place in a world that I can't tell whether it's the future or it's some sort of alternate timeline, but something is different about it. And one of the biggest differences that you'll see in it is the people that work for this company that's called Lumen. Essentially, they have this weird sort of chip in their head so that when they check in for work, they forget who they were on the outside. And then so basically the person that they are on the inside, which they call the innies, that's them. So essentially the day they hired is like the day they're being born. But essentially they know nothing except what they do in that office. So that is essentially their life. And they work in this sort of place that has no windows or anything like that. So they're completely closed off from the outside world. And the main character, his name is Mark, works in this place. And he's paired with 3 other people who live in this kind of cubicle type area. And the set design of this show is rather, I don't know how to describe it, but rather kind of 70s business minimalist. There's a lot of empty space in the office of Lumen and stuff like that. And so you actually get to see, and the computers look very archaic. And a lot of the technology outside the world of Lumen looks very archaic. So what I can't tell, and this is one of those shows that has so many fan theories about it, and ever since I did a search on YouTube to find me like a summary of season 1, this led to like a huge rabbit hole as far as like what people think this show actually is. And yeah, I'm sure if you have some theories out there, feel free to share them in the comments. So I'm going to get to spoilers for season 1 here, but essentially the innies from season 1, for some reason they really, really want to get to know their outies and stuff like that. And we get to see kind of their struggles that they go through. And I don't remember how many episodes are in the first season, but these days you don't get a very long first season of anything these days. So they managed to do this thing where one of the characters turns off the chip in their head so that while they're on the outside, they can access their innie memories. And from there, one of the characters starts to realize that his late wife is in fact alive and is in fact working at the Lumen Corporation under a different name. And the fact that he sort of realizes this doesn't last very long, because apparently that chip thing kind of turns off after that. And so now season 2 starts out with the company Lumen doing some damage control over what happened, where Mark is essentially brought back to the company with 3 new people who are to take place of the other workers. And he's given this story that the Severance program has essentially been, dealt with. Essentially, they really give him the story that, hey man, you really bought up the whole thing with the severance program, and apparently the world has changed, and now it's 5 months later. There's really no, I don't know if it's 5 months later, because honestly, you can really, I mean, because when you get in this whole thing about memory erasure, like I said in my 10-minute rant of Blink Twice, you can really have power over anyone with that. This idea that you can just simply erase memories. Think about the people in Men in Black who just, could do that. I mean, you can essentially erase the fact that a whole alien invasion could happen, couldn't you? And they do. And in this case, Mark meets these 3 new people who he doesn't get along with, and eventually they replace him with the 3 older people in there. Now, I thought maybe they were trying to change the cast around or something like that, but they brought back pretty much everyone from the original cast. And here's the issue. One of the innies in this show, whose name is Helen, or Helly as they call her, apparently we find out at the end of season 1 that she is a very high up person in the Lumen Corporation. In fact, she is probably going to inherit the corporation eventually. So the fact that she's back in the thing, and then she actually, because here's the thing, she actually lies to the other innies about what happened to her on the outside. She actually gives them a stupid story. And of course, I'm wondering, like, why would she lie about that? And this is a thing that a lot of fans are talking about. And people have also been talking about, okay, is the Helly in there the same as her outie? Does she not go through the whole memory wipe process? Because apparently season 1 really has tried to establish Helly as the new girl in there. And if she really wasn't going through that whole memory wipe processing, why did she try to kill herself? Why did she act like she was? It kind of felt like, now it could be that the company Lumen is trying to use Helen as sort of like, okay, let's see how good this severance program really is. And this is where we get into a whole lot of fan theories, because here's the thing at Lumen. The innies, they do this weird thing where they kind of like are at the computers and they see bad numbers and they make the bad numbers go away. That's what they do, but it's not very specific, is it? No, it is the most vague thing you could say. And this is like easily one of the most vague things that's there. And it's obviously put there because it's like, yeah, this is a mystery box show and we're not going to reveal all this stuff until a certain time. And you know what? Maybe it's going to be like the show Lost, where we reveal it, but we kind of don't really reveal it, and we're still having people talk about that show from until now, and maybe that's what they're going to do, and I think this show is smart enough to do something like that. It certainly feels that way. I'm looking forward to seeing how the show is going to progress. The issue is I'm probably losing my Apple TV subscription, so this is obviously maybe a good reason to subscribe to it, just so I can see Severance and watch whatever else is on Apple TV, Apple Plus, because I don't really even know. And it's even weird that we even have this streaming service that most people don't even really subscribe to, and but it has some really good quality content. And yeah, I'm not being paid by them to advertise their content, but hey, it has Severance on it. What can I say? Well, that is that, as we say. I will have to say that this show is something else. Season 2 is going to be something else. And here's the thing. This better be one of those shows that has a definite plan for what they're going to do with this, because this is one of those things that could easily be drawn all the way out. And I hesitate to reveal to compare this show to Lost, but I can't help but do it because the show Lost was one of those where it's like they had all these elements and they were actually trying to get this, the creators of the show were trying to get some sort of deadline on this show. Like, hey, could you end this show by this time? That way we can know where we can put our ending plot lines for this thing. Some of the best shows I actually think have lasted very small seasons that didn't last more than 3 seasons. And I think that's a good idea. If you're going to have a contained story like that, you don't want to draw it out for 5 more seasons, more than it has to be. I think Severance is one of those shows that would benefit from just having 3 seasons max, because that way you can just get tell the story that you need to tell. And I'm not really certain what's happening in the world of Severance, and I'm obviously supposed to be speculating on that, and hey, maybe I'm obviously doing what the show wants me to do, which is do a 10-minute rant on it.